Senior Report thanks Edmund Besch of Bristol Burgess Insurance Agency, 65 East Main Street, Westfield, for his generous grant to provide news to seniors. Funding is provided by a grant from New York State Senator Catherine M. Young, representing Western New York's 57th District with a local office in Olean. Funding for Senior Report is provided in part by a grant from Andrew Goodell, Assemblyman for the 150th District of the New York State Assembly. Senior Report with Reed Powers thanks Westfield's Schultz Chevy for a generous grant to inform seniors of important news. Over 50 years of service to Westfield by Chevrolet, Schultz Chevy across from the school. The physicians of Jamestown Primary Care are happy to sponsor the Senior Report. From the Access Channel 5 television studio in Mayville, it's Senior Report with Reed Powers. Senior Report is broadcast live throughout northern Chautauqua County on Saturday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. each week. Call in and share a thought, make a comment, ask a question, or simply wish someone a happy birthday on Chautauqua County's only live call-in senior program. Since 1995, Reed has been bringing viewers hundreds of interesting guests, informing the community on a variety of subjects. Here's the host of the show, Reed Powers.
And good morning. What a beautiful day in Chautauqua County. Spring has arrived, or something. At least it's above freezing for a moment. We had 35 below zero wind chill a little while back, and it's been a solid month almost since we've had anything above freezing. These 5-degree days and nights, holy mackerel. The water is running in every cellar in the county just about. Somebody's got a pipe burst or something, and even I have one. I have a couple of faucets that gave it up. Oh, well, that's the wonder of living up here, and of course Chautauqua County is the most beautiful place to live in the whole world anyway, even though it is awfully cold. But the ice fishermen are out catching wonderful fish out on Lake Chautauqua right now as we speak. There's a little village out there, and the little huts have a nice little heater in them, and they have fishing equipment in them, and they usually have some food and a little burner to keep it warm, and they have a young lady. Moving right on, we have with us a great guest. He's a noted chiropractor in our area. His name is Earl Feling, and he's going to talk a little bit about cracking them bones. We also have with us Karen Harvey, who's going to talk a little bit about the sale of she's going to talk about getting rid of things that are very essential to senior citizens. We'll leave it like that and let you figure out what it is. I have been watching TV lately, and there's nothing much of interest. There will be the Super Bowl. Don't miss that tomorrow at 6:30, although they'll be talking about it from dawn, I think. The Super Bowl is a wonder. You know, more chicken wings are eaten on Super Bowl Sunday than any other time on earth. And a lot of pizza, believe me. A lot of pizza pie. And you can buy your pizza pie. By the time it's delivered and tipped and everything, it costs $18-20. But if you go down and buy one prepared at the supermarket, it's $3. Toss some more pepperoni on it, some onions, some peppers, whatever you do. I put all kinds of wonderful things. My wife says, you put 14 different things on that pizza. Just takes a minute, though, and it's awfully good. And who can beat the onions and the great things you can put on it, and the herbs and the garlic powder? Oh, love that pizza. So Super Bowl Sunday is coming, and There is one date I want to put on your, right in front of you. I want you to go to your calendar and draw a big black circle around it, and that is March 1st. That's when you can no longer get the star. Now, the state of New York, hoping a lot of people would forget, threw everybody off their list. You've got to re-register now for regular star. And that's kind of strange, but yes, don't forget to register or you won't get it. And it does cut back on your taxes quite a bit, on your school taxes. For the enhanced star, which many seniors get, for the seniors, it's a little bit more, and you have to do the same thing. But remember, you have to, they say you don't have to re-register, but it doesn't hurt to do it anyway, I think, because these people are very confused. It's a government office, you know. You have to go down to your tax collector in your village or town, and you have to sit down with the tax collector and talk about how much money you made last year to qualify for the enhanced. And it's pretty generous. You can make quite a bit of dough and still get the enhanced, the greater amount. But you do have to come down with the paperwork, last year's tax forms, and you have to fill out their form and get it together by March 1st. Do not forget this, senior citizens. If you know a senior who might forget, tell them and usher them down to the tax collector. That's for the enhanced again, the senior. Lots of other things happening, and as I said on TV, there's nothing going on. We have a moribund Congress for the most part. They did pass a fractional part-time budget, which they're going to fight over for the next 6 months probably anyway. And Obama gave the State of the Union stating that he's going to raise the minimum wage for government contracts to $10, I think, and 10 cents or something, so that it'll be a living wage, which it ain't. Forget it. In this day and age, it ain't a living wage. But the laughable thing is everybody makes that much anyway on government contracts. These guys are not stuck with a minimum wage of $7 and change. They already make that. So it's just a big whirlpool of nonsense going on in Washington right now. Obama has noted he's going to start doing things by executive action because instead of depending on Congress. And somebody said, well, you know, he may be doing that, but he's not as bad as his predecessors. They all did executive action a lot more than he's done it and thinking of doing it. All right, so enough going on. Nothing happening really in Washington. There was some goofy thing happened there in D.C. I can't forget what it was, but it was recently. At any rate, who knows what's going on in Washington? You know, they don't tell you really. Karen, we have with us Karen Harvey. She has a note. She wants to make a mention of something, but before she does, I have a couple of notes of my own here. I want to just talk about the senior stuff going on around town. I'm going to be very brief on this. We have a big program. The Great Belt seniors do a lot of things. They're going to Seneca Casino April 15th. What a day. You're going to lose a lot of money on April 15th. Don't gamble. They give you some chips, use them, and run like the devil's after you. Don't stick around and keep playing. And those trips are real cheap because they give you vouchers for gambling for usually the slots, and then they also give you a lunch chit. So you basically, it costs you nothing if you win. Don't hang around trying to win. I wanted to mention they're going to New York City. Yeah, the Great Belt crowd is heading out for a trip to New York City and to New England and Cape Cod, and oh boy, these tours, if you're interested in any, join the crowd or just call Mary Ann. Write this down. If you want a nice, long, wonderful, friendly trip with a lot of great people that costs you virtually nothing, 672-5274. They have a knitting group there. If you knit, drop around you. They knit all kinds of things, scarves, mittens, gloves. Yes, there's a difference between a glove and a mitten. Gloves have fingers. And let's see. They have yoga. Those people, those want to keep in good health. We'll talk yoga. I'm going to ask Dr. Feling here about yoga, see what he has to say. I had a friend who tried to get me started in it. I just couldn't even sit in the position to start with. My bones are old. Let me see, one more thing here. CASA. They're looking for help with children who are in foster care. And a lot of things happen here. It's wonderful. These are about kids who are abused or neglected or for one reason or another in foster care. They need some help. They need mentoring. And you'll have a chance to talk about that. They're having a potluck supper over at Star, over at Great Belt, February 19th. That's a Wednesday. 11:30 a.m. Good food, good conversation, gourmet food. Silver Creek Seniors, Ed Newman does that. And he indicates that Thelma and Ernie Hilliker were not feeling well and were missed. That's sad, though. Yeah. I wanted to say the Super Bowl luncheon they're having over there at the Silver Creek is going to be on today? Wow. Okay, 11 a.m. They'll celebrate Valentine's Day, February 11th. Pretty close, February 14th is Valentine's Day, as I recall. They're having a Sunday gala when they get together and play bingo and have a lot of fun. And a lot of goods will be available. They're going to put out glassware and candles and cookbooks, a pierogi, rummage, CDs, theme bats, all kinds of stuff. Sunday, February 9th, drop around. Lakeshore Seniors, they have a great deal. They meet at the Senior Center in Dunkirk, and they have a super special place over there. Stella Mikulak opens the door. She's the president, and they had to send a get well card, and I want to say Albertine Jakowitz, get well. And they will be selling dishes and silverware. I guess maybe they decided no more food. Although most groups ask you to bring your own silverware and take it home and wash it yourself. Freshman Committee, for next meeting, February 5, at the Lakeshore Seniors, Patricia Pecos and Dorothy Shenariak. Steger, the Steger apartment house has a great big tenants association. It's very busy, very active. They're going to, they note this is election year, and they'll need a news vice president because she's going to Florida. And so far, they note no one has been nominated or shown any interest in any position. That's the way it is with the senior groups, though. Everybody works like mad, and but there's no pay or anything. It's really a thank you. Sheridan Happy Pizza, February 14th. That is the day. That's a sweetheart day. Enough said. I got so much going on here. I think I'll just. I want to have Karen say something now. We've got with us Karen Harvey, very active. She's a photojournalist, worldwide credentials, and she and her hubby do a lot of work in terms of journalism. And I want to just turn it all over to Karen. Here you go. You're on, Karen.
Thank you, Reed. We're talking about the Chautauqua County Nursing Home again. It is a very vital asset that provides care at the end of life to people who would not get it elsewhere. When you have a private or for-profit nursing home, they can refuse Medicaid patients, and they do. Those Medicaid patients will still be paid for by us, even if they're sent to other counties or other states. Their residency is here, and we'll maintain the funding for them. What we know now from the highest source is that our public nursing home is not losing money. In fact, it has a $3.5 million balance, fund balance, surplus. We also know from the highest source that the county executive has undermined that home. The CGR report gave very many possibilities for improvements for the financial stability of that institution, and it was undermined by the county executive. We also know now that the numbers that were given are manipulated. They're manipulated because we find that they continue to maintain that there are subsidies to our home. There are no subsidies. In the last 2 years, the budget did not have $1 allocated for the county home. $0 if you look at the county budget for the county nursing home. Later in the year, when they found a fund balance for the entire county had some money, they would take a certain amount, whether it would be $1 million, they would submit it for IGT matching funds and get back $2 for every dollar. So for $1 million, you got $3 million. You can say that that's a subsidy because, of course, we're taxed for that money that came down, but so is everything else in our government. Every aspect of our government has subsidies. Let me go even further. We have subsidies for things like Lakeshore Hospital. Lakeshore Hospital was subsidized by millions of dollars to maintain itself. Now it's dumped its 450 person staff. It is closing. We had no control of that. We have subsidies that go to our other senior facilities like Lutheran Social Services, $28 million to Lutheran Social Services, $2 million to Heritage. Those are subsidies that are our tax money, We paid for those grants. They're outright grants. They're not matching funds. We see that the new buyer, Mr. Farbenblum, has a record of not paying taxes. He just applies to the IDA, another county agency that is subsidized or funded by our tax money. He applies around the state in the many places that he has homes, and of course he gets a pass on his taxes. He immediately upon buying a public home terminates the employees and often brings in outsiders, including Philippine workers, to provide staff for his nursing homes. We are concerned because things like Walmart are subsidized, McDonald's. Those employees actually qualify for our social services in this county. Those are our taxes. Those are monies that we put out. Our county home is not one of those. It can provide a break-even situation. It is a vital, vital asset to us, and we need it. It's a moral imperative that we should all embrace and devote some time to calling. The vote is February 5th for saving our county nursing home. Thank you.
Okay, that's basically it's another case of throwing the seniors under the bus. We've had a county home here as long as I can remember for sure. It's over 100 years, and it used to be in DeWittville, and they called it the poorhouse. They raised their own food over there too. And I want to indicate that, why, Karen, one quick question. Why are they trying to sell it?
You have a group of people in place who want to privatize everything. I would like to know why they are public officials. If they want to have no public facilities, no public anything, everything's going to be run. Are we going to sell the schools, the water system, the police force? You never know. But anyway, this one has been here, as you say. It's a tradition. It's a tradition that goes back to quality of life questions that we really need to remember our history and to say, no, we can't do this.
Okay.
We fund, if you look at the county budget monthly, you'll see that there are grants coming down for things like dog training and body armor and automatic weapons and bulletproof.
But no money for the
Not too
seniors.
much for us, right.
Okay, thank you,
And
Karen.
those are grants. Those are not matching funds. Those are out and out our tax
well, we
money
make
straight
money
up.
on the deal. I'm sorry to hear that, Karen.
Thank you.
Mr. Horrigan was on our program, and he's indicated he's in favor of selling it. So, and the Republicans are in general in favor of selling it because they have now taken the lead over in the our legislature. Okay, I got a public service announcement for you. Enough talk. Here you go. This is for you.
Training is about more than muscle. It's about inner strength. So I push myself. That's why I serve in the United States Coast Guard. I train with the best, a team that shares my drive and commitment. We collect intelligence, guard our shores against drug smugglers, and keep our waterways safe, because our nation expects more.
If you expect more, maybe you were born ready. Find out at GoCoastGuard.com.
He's here. He's back. John Hamels, Doc, you're on.
Good morning, Reed. Good morning, everyone. And hey, Earl, good to see you again. I always like you when you're on the other side of the room and not throwing my back around. But I got to tell you, I scream like a little girl, and it feels really good when he does it. I do. I always tell Earl, no matter what I say, don't stop. So glad to have you back. Well, folks, I just have really some announcements. I shared my time with Karen Harvey there. Well put, Karen. Real quick, last night I had an opportunity, and I don't know if you've ever had this, but have you ever been hugged by a Grammy Award winner?
Not that I know of.
Take a look at this picture. Can you bring that up, Jeff? Oh.
It's gone.
There he is. Kent Knappenberger had a wonderful reception last night provided by the Westfield Central School and Academy.
And he was at the Grammys.
He was a Grammy Award winner as the Educator of the Year. And so I don't have the date yet, but we are trying our darndest to get him here on the senior report, because there's just so much to talk about. And, you know, you read little bits and pieces in the newspaper, but I think it would be a lot of fun to bring Kent on the show. And Kent's just a wonderful soul. I mean, he's just warm and obviously very fuzzy. And and he's just a delight to talk with, and just really, really a lot of fun. So, again, congratulations, Kent, on your award. And it's as shiny as it looks. And there's some other hardware that he's got that I didn't take a picture. I didn't want to steal his thunder, so hopefully he'll bring some of that with him. So look to the newspapers. We're going to be hopefully having him here probably in March. So we'll let you know more on that. Okay, coming up also, I talked about this last week, and I promised the hospital, Westfield Memorial Hospital Foundation, that I would promote this once again. There's a dinner theater, Reed, if you have nothing better to do, next Friday at Easton Hall, right here. Well, not here. We're in Mayville, down the road, over in Easton Hall in Westfield. I can't remember where I'm at half the time.
What's the date?
February 7th, 6 o'clock. And there's a fella from Westfield that you tell me you know. I'll hold up his picture, and probably everybody else knows. Tim Newell.
Yep.
Okay. Whoops. Hang on there, Tim. I'll hold that right up there. Stop shaking. Okay, there's Tim. Tim is putting together this performance through the Chautauqua County Gurney Players. And basically, this has been sponsored by the Holt family, the Mascara family, and Lorna Penny. It's also going to be performed at the Kappa Theater the next day in Jamestown, February 8th as well. And the whole proceedings will basically help out the foundation at the hospital, because they're working on some renovations of the emergency department. And then the Saturday performance will be helping the Chautauqua chapter of National Society of the Arts and Letters. So anyways, tickets are available, and you can call 793-2328 for that. So that's that. And then I just want to do a shout out. Sometimes we say hi to people that are our viewers, huh? Occasionally. So I want to say hello to the Kurtz family. I had a pleasure of meeting them in the last couple of weeks on a couple of projects I'm working on, and just a lot of fun. And they watch the show. No matter what you say and do, they watch the show.
Regularly. Their daughter's very active,
yes.
too, I might add.
Yeah, Joy. Mm-hmm. All right, and then finally, one last promotion, because we want to get to our guests. A week from tomorrow, February 9th, if you want to hit that, Randy, Bill and I are helping out once again a big fundraiser over in South Dayton to help two families. And I know there's a lot of print on there, but it's a fundraiser. Nettie from the Mustard Seed, she's the owner. Have you ever eaten at the Mustard Seed out in South Dayton?
Not I, but I know Nettie. I know Nettie.
You know Nettie. Yeah. All right. Well, anyways, if you know Nettie, you'll know that this is going to be a great program. It's $25 a person, but you get all of this pizza and desserts, and I guess there's then you get the music and all that sort of thing. But it's a fundraiser, and it's a fun time, and it starts at 5 o'clock, and then they're going to have a 50-50 drawing, and they got all kinds of good stuff there. Yep. There's me on the one side. And anyway, so that's coming up on February 9th. And just as a reminder, since a lot of times I take the calls here, folks, if you have an event or something that you want to promote and you're shy, call up the number 753-5225, and I'll take the information, and I secretly slip it over to Reed if I'm not on the air, and we'll announce your event. It's free, free advertisement. So anyways, lots of stuff going on in the county. Reed, back to you.
Thanks a lot.
You bet.
Doc Hamels, telling it like it is. We have a guest who's been here before with us. He's very generous with his time. He gives up his Saturday morning. He knows that he will be on eventually. Some of our new guests aren't sure. They figure this will go on and on. We have with us Earl Feling. And Earl, you're a pretty well-known chiropractor. What does a chiropractor do? What's the definition of a chiropractor?
Well, basically what we're doing, Reed, is we are reintroducing movement into areas of the spine to relieve pressure on nerves, which can be either irritated or impinged, causing or predisposing various systems of the body to disease processes. By alleviating that pressure or irritation, we can, in theory, restore normal function of that particular organ system. Or more commonly, we're dealing with musculoskeletal issues that arise from these impingements of nerves, or what we call subluxations, which are slight alterations in function and structure and movement of vertebrae and the nerves that emerge between those vertebrae.
So basically, the spine has a lot to do with it.
Yes, it does.
This is a game plan here.
Yes, it does. All organs and all parts of your body are supplied by nerves.
Which, do they all come out of the spine, or?
Yes.
They do.
Most come out of the spine. The spinal nerves in particular emerge directly from the spinal cord. And there are several sections of the spinal cord. You can think of the spinal cord as a conduit with a number of different wires in it that will supply the various muscles and organs of the body directly from the brain. Other parts of our brain that we cannot control, our autonomic nervous system, provide things such as our breathing, which is very important.
And jerking back when you hit something hot.
Sure.
You
Certainly.
notice
Certainly.
you hit something hot, you don't even
Yes.
think about it. You
Yeah.
just jump back.
That's right. And those reflexes take place right at the level of the spinal cord. They don't even have to communicate with the brain.
They shortchange the brain,
And,
go right around it.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And it's probably a good thing that they do, because if we had to think about it first,
It'd be over.
It'd be over. Yeah.
L5. The more people have back pain and trouble. They tell me with the L5 vertebrae.
Yes.
What's going on there? Why is that a problem?
A lot of things happen there at the L5. It's the last movable segment of the spine. It's also the largest disc, the thickest disc of the spine. So there are a lot of pressures on that. And the supportive elements around that area are kind of weak. It's a flaw in our design that quite often is very prone to degeneration from all the bending and twisting and lifting that people do throughout their lifetimes. You couple that with a little bit of degenerative arthritis or osteoporosis, and that particular vertebral segment, it will start to degenerate. And as it degenerates, it closes down on the area where the spinal nerves emerge from the spinal cord, clamping them down, and that's where you hear people developing stenosis, problems with the legs, sciatica. A lot of people become crippled because of this process.
Is that rotten L5? Well, Earl, when somebody goes to a chiropractor, what are they? I have a friend who says I go there for a cold, but that doesn't ring true. But what do they go to you for?
I see a multitude of problems, everything from issues dealing with diet, nutrition, structure, function. A lot of times people who are stressed. Headaches, for instance, are a very common problem that chiropractic can take care of. People who are very tense find relief through chiropractic adjustments. We also work on the muscles, trigger points, that places in the muscle where there's been a long-standing spasm and accumulation of waste products. Multitude of problems that we address. Quite often I'll see people who they'll have an internal problem such as an ulcer, or everybody has their telltale sign, let's say. They know that when their stomach starts acting up that they need an adjustment to relieve the pressure on the nerves that supply the stomach that come from the mid-thoracic region, for instance. People who might develop sciatica will quite often come in because they know.
What is sciatica?
Sciatica is anything that causes an irritation of the sciatic nerve. And the sciatic nerve is not just one nerve, but rather a group of nerves that emerge from the last 4 levels of the lumbar spine, including our L5, as you mentioned. L5 is one of the primary roots of the sciatic nerve. So there are several branches to the sciatic nerve, and a lot of times anything that can interfere or irritate any one of those levels, if not all of them, will create sciatica. One of the more common sources of sciatic neuritis or sciatica that I see is that of the pelvis being misaligned. It's not necessarily L5, but quite often we will see if the pelvis is not moving, there's a muscle that runs from the hip over to the spine called the piriformis muscle, for instance, which will overlie the sciatic nerve. If that muscle goes into spasm, it'll irritate the sciatic nerve, creating sciatica. Sometimes people, I see this quite often, I'll ask them, I'll say, do you sit on a wallet? And they'll say yes. Well, wallet's pretty thick these days with all the cards and things we have to carry. So they're directly irritating that sciatic nerve. Quite often with our seniors too, I will not rule out I will rule out, try to anyway, the possibility of it being a degenerated hip joint itself, per se. A lot of times people will come in and say, oh, I got this sciatic pain, or my low back is hurting, but only when I walk or when I get up out of a seated position. So quite often I will order an x-ray of the hip, because degeneration of the hip can also irritate that muscle and create a lot of inflammation locally around the sciatic nerve, which will create sciatica.
Okay, you're a chiropractor and basically concerned about bones and structures and nerves in the spine. If somebody comes in with something more serious or different, you send them to a doctor, don't you?
Oh, quite often I'll try to refer to a specialist of that field. If I will differentially diagnose.
Medical doctor.
It depends on what the problem is. Quite often, if a person doesn't respond within a few treatments, we start looking a little deeper. As a general rule, you try to rule out what's going to be the most dangerous situation. If a person comes in with pain in their left shoulder and radiating up into the face or neck or down the arm, and they think, oh, I got a pain in my neck, quite often you'll start thinking maybe in terms of MI, heart attack. And I'll say, you know, this is something we probably shouldn't mess around with. Let's see how you respond with this treatment. But if this continues, I want you to get to the emergency room as soon as possible. Or perhaps you might just want to go see your medical doctor and rule out the possibility of it being a heart attack. Get an EKG or a stress test. Quite often, internal problems will manifest themselves as spinal pain. The pain will refer to an area of the spine, and the brain can't always interpret where that pain is coming from. It's very similar to if you drink a milkshake very fast. The referred pain pattern will give you a headache. Some people call it a brain freeze, but that's actually the pain receptors in the throat feeling that pain. The internal organs are the same way. If you have a problem with your gallbladder, for instance, it may refer pain behind your right shoulder blade. A heart. There again, a heart attack. Some people will just have a pain in their throat, or perhaps up the left side. So it's very important that we rule these things out. Therefore, to make the proper referral, you have to have a good working knowledge and history of how the body works and the nervous system.
What do you have to do to become a chiropractor?
Well, in New York,
I see there's a advertisement in the paper where you can just take a course and bingo, you're a chiropractor.
Oh, I don't know about that, but as a general rule, in New York State, we are required to have a 4-year degree before we go to chiropractic college. When I went, that was the case, and while I was in chiropractic college, I earned a second Bachelor of Science, which was offered. It was a dual degree program, and then 2 years later I received my doctorate. But as a general rule, it takes at least 8 years of college at an accredited chiropractic college to attain the doctorate of chiropractic.
So what do you take in your undergraduate courses?
Well,
what did you major in?
I majored in medical technology, and I had a degree in that before I graduated, which had all the prerequisites for chiropractic, all the chemistry, the physics, the mathematics, a lot of things that we never use, but seem to weed a lot of people out from the medical-oriented professions, healthcare. So anatomy, physiology, all the basics. Of course, with the field that I was in, we had to take a lot of the chemistry and clinical laboratory diagnosis courses.
So it all sort of leads into the chiropractic study.
Oh yes,
And,
it certainly helps. It was a tremendous asset to me to have a little more education than what I needed to begin with. That way I was able to concentrate on other things while I was in chiropractic.
Sounds as though that's a pretty rigorous course of a study in order to become a chiropractor.
Yes.
You don't just walk in and start cracking bones, that's
no.
for sure.
No, it's a very, very regimented program of study.
Doctors sometimes frown upon chiropractic. Why is that?
Well, I think most of it is, from what I can see in my 28 years of practice, is that they don't understand chiropractic. I think that their conception of chiropractic is that we just rub backs and crack bones, and that's all we do. They don't appreciate how much education we do have, especially when it comes to nutrition and biomechanics and anatomy. I believe we have a lot more specialized study in those areas. So I think as a general rule, it's not so much economic as it is a lack of understanding.
Okay. You mentioned nutrition. What are the components of good nutrition that you would refer people to? Eat your spinach, you know. But what incidentally, I found out they tell you to eat bananas for potassium.
Yes.
But potatoes have more potassium than a banana does.
Yes, potatoes have a lot of potassium. Yes.
Nutrition.
Yeah. As a general rule, I think that our food is not as nutritious as it used to be, particularly in the trace elements in the mineral department. It's particularly important that seniors get adequate calcium, and even more importantly, as you age, magnesium becomes increasingly important. Magnesium is readily available not just through supplementation, but in your green vegetables. The chlorophyll in green vegetables is formed around a magnesium element. So if you eat a lot of green vegetables, you will get adequate amounts of magnesium, which is more readily incorporated in your bony matrix than is calcium at an older age.
What does magnesium do specifically?
Magnesium is a positive element, and it's important not only for strengthening bones, but also important for muscle relaxation. Calcium is very important. As you mentioned, potassium is also very important. If you don't get enough of the positive ions or elements in your diet, you're very prone to such things as leg cramps, muscle spasms, pain in the muscles per se. A lot of your thiazide type of diuretics that are frequently prescribed for high blood pressure will force your body to leach or pass the positive ions out of your system, in particular potassium. So that's why it's very important for people who are on the thiazide diuretics or high blood pressure to eat bananas and
eat a banana
potatoes.
a day.
Not necessarily in the form of potato chips, but potatoes are very good as a source of potassium. Kelp is very important with iodine. Your green vegetables, as I mentioned, for magnesium. Calcium, of course, in some of your dairy products, but you have to be careful with that too, not to eat too much of the dairy products. Some of your supplements that are out there are not readily absorbed into your system, so you have to be very careful with that too. But as a general rule,
you're talking about vitamin pills or something.
correct.
Like that. They don't work so well.
Some of them do not. They're not absorbed into your system very well. So you have to be very careful with what you buy. It's one of those deals where sometimes you get what you pay for. If you buy a cheap vitamin, it's probably not going to be absorbed very well at all. Many of your calcium supplements that are available are nothing more than chalk, which is calcium carbonate. Calcium lactate, for instance, is milk calcium. That sounds all well and good, but milk calcium is not readily absorbed into your system either. It's a very large phosphorylated or 4 calcium ions attached to a phosphate ion. It doesn't break apart very easily. It is not readily absorbed into your system. But it is important with any kind of calcium supplementation that you get vitamin D as well as proper exercise to stimulate your bones. And a little bit of sunshine doesn't hurt either.
Okay, thank you. We have a call. Want to take a phone call?
Sure.
Hey, good morning, caller. Thank you for waiting.
Good morning, Reed. Good morning, Dr. Earl.
Good morning.
My question now, you might have discussed some of it, but is a lot of the problems people have needing a chiropractor just part of their bodies that haven't developed properly, or is it just like, I work with a lot of people. Usually most of them are a lot younger, and they're always saying they have to go to the chiropractor because they've hurt their back and stuff. Do they just not lift properly? And
I think 90% of the time I find that people who are not in good shape to begin with do not get adequate exercise, and then they go at some activity with work, with without thinking. They're lifting with their backs and not their head. And quite often, yes, that is the problem. I think that's something that does come with age. I occasionally think I'm still 26 years old myself and try to lift something or do something that I can't, and then I suffer the consequences. But when you are 26 years old, you think you're invincible, and you do try to do these things. But I do believe, yes, that as a general rule, younger people are more prone to injury because they aren't as active as, say, my generation was, when we were that age. And so therefore, when they do get into the workforce, they are more prone to injuries, especially anything involving bending, twisting under load, or repetitive motion activities.
Bad physically.
Yeah. Also, I was just wondering, let's see, how do I put this? Oh, before you start work, our last company I worked for had like a 10-minute pre-stretch where you followed a video and you did all kinds of different stretching. Now, they say this will actually cut down on the people get hurt, but I'm not sure if they ever had any proof of it. Or
yeah, I think it probably does. I believe that it's just like with any athletic event. If you preload your muscles and ligaments, you're less apt to injure them, especially stretching out ligaments and tendons. As we grow older, that becomes increasingly important. Earlier in the program, Reed mentioned yoga. And that is an excellent stretching exercise, not only from a relaxation standpoint, but also from a musculoskeletal one. But I do believe that as a general rule, and it's been proven in a lot of your foreign countries such as Japan and Germany, who have used these techniques for many, many years, that the stretching before work does prevent a lot of work-related injuries.
Thank you, caller. Is that answered?
Okay, well, yes, it does. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks for coming on. We got another call. You want to take another?
Sure.
Okay, they're working on it.
Okay.
Sirloin steak, nice big rare sirloin steak.
Sounds good.
You don't disapprove of that?
No. Once in a while.
Once in a while. Fish. My mother, I still remember as a little kid, my mother used to torture us by taking a spoonful of cod liver oil and making us eat it.
Okay.
We never understood why. We thought she was just mad at us. But now I see big ads for this fish capsule and fish oil and everything. What about this fish stuff?
Well, basically what they're trying to do there is to promote the omega-3 and omega-5 fatty acids. These are long-chain fatty acids that have a double bond towards the end. They're not as flexible as, for instance, the omega-6 fatty acids that you're finding in a lot of our food chain now. The omega-6 fatty acids have been proven to get clogged up in our cell membranes, and this is what is being held responsible for a lot of the diseases in our society. Your genetically modified grains that they're feeding livestock have a lot of omega-6 fatty acids in them. That gets incorporated into the meat and the fat of their meat, and that in turn goes into our systems. So fish that are raised or grown in very cold waters are known to have very high levels of omega-3 and omega-5 fatty acids. So therefore, by eating those fish, or the oil that comes from those fish, will in turn have a benefit to us by decreasing that buildup.
Certain fish are good. I see there, you were talking about omega-6 and omega-5, and we don't have any idea what those are. I want to address that in a minute, but we have another couple phone calls. You want to take a call?
Certainly.
Hello there, caller. Thank you for waiting.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Good morning.
I have a question for your guest. I hear a lot of people say, oh, they're not really doctors. I wouldn't go to them. And yet I know for a fact, my husband used to have he's deceased now, but when he was working, his
Didn't
back
do
would
him any
go
good, huh?
not from that, dear. His back would go out, and it meant, when it first started happening, it meant 1 to 2 weeks before he could go back to work. I mean, it was really out. And we went to this chiropractor in Northeast. At that point, and went in. He had one treatment. I don't know what he did to him because I didn't go in with him. And bingo, my husband's back was fine. And the next time it happened, he went back to him, and he got the same results. Finally, the doctor moved, but luckily my husband's back stopped doing that. So.
Oh, well, that's great. Yeah.
Anyways, I can highly recommend if don't believe those stories about they're not real doctors or whatever.
Well, you should see the credentials Dr. Feling has. He 8 years before he even really got into it, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
8 years of formal education. He has all kinds of degrees. He's had to have this.
Well, what I'm saying is, I have come to believe very sincerely that a chiropractor is excellent for that kind of pain and so forth for you, better than going to a doctor and having him give you a bunch of pills that don't work anyways. And if they do, they only temporarily disguise what's wrong. They don't help it.
Well, okay. Good comment. He's pointed out, Earl, you said pills don't always work so well anyway. They can be absorbed, right?
Certainly. Especially your dietary supplements, you have to be very careful of.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. If you send me a self-addressed stamped box, I will send you a free banana. It's full of wonderful potassium.
Make sure it's green when you send it, because by the time it gets here, it's probably not going to be. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Fries. I see there's a fry battle on now. New York State is trying to stop them from using omega something fats, and McDonald's finally has decided not to. And what's that all about?
That's only if you drink a 24-ounce soda pop with it. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway,
with the banana or the fries?
As a general rule, the different oils that are used to fry fried foods, for instance, corn oil, which is the cheapest form of oil for frying, is very, very high in your omega-6 fatty acids.
Those are bad acids?
Yes, that's a bad form of oil, whereas if you use something like canola oil, which tastes very good, or olive oil, both of which are more expensive than corn oil, you do not have the omega-6 fatty acids. They are higher in the omega-3s and omega-5s, which are healthier for you.
Okay, great. Let's take that another caller. Good morning, caller. Thank you for waiting. Hello there.
Hello.
You're on.
Is the services provided by the doctor covered by insurance, or do they require out-of-pocket payment?
Most insurance companies will recognize chiropractic. I am not a participating provider with a lot of companies. I am certified in no-fault cases and workers' compensation, and we do participate, or I should say, I work as a non-participating provider with Medicare. I will accept assignment of primary Medicare. A lot of the supplementary policies for Medicare that are replacement policies, unfortunately, do not recognize chiropractic.
The Medigap insurance.
Yes, if you are not a participating provider, and which is unfortunate. But I quite often recommend that people have regular Medicare as their primary form of insurance. Some other insurances, we have very good results as a non-participating provider through other states. For instance, we have much better results with Pennsylvania insurances than we do New York, as a general rule. Without mentioning any specific companies, quite often a lot of the New York-based companies will not reimburse chiropractors on a non-participating basis. They may say that they recognize chiropractic, but you have to drive halfway across the state or to the clear end of this county to find one that does participate. And quite often with that, the co-pays and the deductibles are higher than what my office visits are anyway.
So it's, did that answer?
Two quick questions I'll let him talk about. Do you need a referral to show up? And the other thing is, what would be the out-of-pocket cost if you didn't have insurance?
Yeah, everybody wants to know what a treatment costs. Well, if I just went over and said, you know, Doc, my back aches, and I was told to come over and see you, what would that run me? 20, 50,000, 100?
For you, it would be 1,000. But as a general rule, we have a senior citizen discount, our Medicare rate of $25.
So that's very reasonable.
Yes, it is very reasonable, and our cash rate of $30 for regular patients. I also have a $25 rate for students, and I've never charged for children under 12. So,
oh boy, you're some kind of a local angel.
Yeah, sometimes.
I tell you.
On a limited basis.
No, that's very generous. $25 for a senior, and kids for little kids, nothing, right?
Yes.
What do you do with little kids? Same thing?
Yes, of course I don't thrust on them as hard as I would a large adult, but as a general rule, I can do some very gentle immobilization and adjusting on children, and children respond very, very well to chiropractic care. I've had very good results with that. As a general rule, they will usually, within 1 or 2 treatments, see very good results for whatever the problem may be.
Now, what does that crack mean when you treat them? You know, everybody always talks about a bone cracking.
Yeah.
What is that all about?
Well, what happens is if there's a place between the vertebrae that are not moving or are subluxated, when we introduce motion into that segment in a specific line of drive or thrust, when the vertebrae move, it's sort of like pulling a suction cup off a piece of glass. It'll pop. And that is the release that you hear between the cartilage between the vertebrae. They're kind of stuck together. And when we release that, it also provides a little bit of stretch to the ligaments that bind those vertebrae together. But that release, the popping, clicking sound that you hear is basically that release of that vacuum that has occurred between the hyaline membranes, or the cartilage between the vertebrae.
So it's the vertebrae cracking?
Yes.
It's just suction sound?
Yeah, it's not actually a crushing of bony osseous tissue as some people might lead to believe, but it is a release of the gas between the vertebrae.
So if you're not getting cracked, you're not getting the full treatment?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. You don't always have to hear that pop to get the results.
We're with Dr. Earl Feling. He is a local chiropractor of great note in our area. Where's your office?
My office now is in Ripley? 73 West Main Street. I've been there for 3 years now. I was in Mayville for the first 24 years of my practice, and but I moved there a few years ago, and I'm closer to home, and I don't have to beat myself up driving over that hill twice a day.
Oh yeah.
In this kind of weather, especially.
Well, I'll tell you, God bless the road departments.
Yes.
The hill from Westfield, coming up past the house up there, what was his name? Our Secretary of State under Abraham Lincoln. Which one?
William Stewart.
William Stewart House. William Seward House. That's a hill up there. But it was clean as a whistle. It looked like summer. It was wonderful. Thank you, road departments out there busting your plows in the middle of the night often. It's not a welcome job when it's snowing like crazy in the middle of the night. So anyway, chiropractic is your name and your game. If somebody wanted to go into the business, what would you advise them to do? You could take a quick course out of the newspaper, you know?
Well, no, it's not necessarily that. I have referred a few people over the years to chiropractic. It's something you have to be very serious about. And in this day and age now, with the way health insurance is going, and continuing education requirements, there's a lot to consider. It's not something to just you have to take it very seriously if anyone wants to pursue any kind of healthcare profession, not just chiropractic. It is a very rigorous curriculum. It takes a lot of commitment and a great deal of sacrifice, especially for a young person. You're basically going to sacrifice the next 8 to 9, 10 years of your life for your education, and it is expensive. So there's a lot to consider before anyone does pursue this field or any of the healthcare professional fields.
Of course, the average kid get the dough. You say it's expensive. I'll bet it is.
No, unless you're independently wealthy. Quite often, the only course nowadays is to borrow the money and or work while you're in college, unless you're very, very gifted and can attain scholarships and grants to assist with the process. But yes, any professional school, private school is very expensive.
What are you talking about, 20,000, 30,000 a year or what?
Oh, easily. Huh? Yeah.
So you got to have some dough back
Yeah,
up.
it would definitely help.
How about when you went to school?
It wasn't that bad.
Wasn't?
It wasn't. I was lucky enough that most of my undergraduate was paid for, but I did have to borrow some money at the time to get through chiropractic school in addition to working while I was in school, but it wasn't anything like what kids are borrowing now. I hear all kinds of horror stories of
100,000.
Oh, easily.
I hear that.
150,000 kids are coming out of undergraduate school and can't find a job. That's a pretty scary situation to be in.
Yeah. Well, used to be colleges college was free back when. All the state university system until Rockefeller came along.
Yeah.
And then he installed I think it was $50 tuition. We raised a rumpus about it. Said, hey, wait a minute, this is a state university system, is land grants supposed to be free.
Right.
For the people that can't afford it. Now, how does a kid afford this kind of thing? I mean, it's just out of sight.
It's terrible.
It's out of sight. And the parents are selling their houses and all kinds of things to try to get their kids through college. And, of course, they tell you if you don't have a college education, you're dead in the water. So what are you going to do? You're going to be a roofer all your life.
It's kind of a no-win situation, especially if you can't find a job after you get your education.
Well, Earl, I appreciate you joining us today. You come back again
It's always
soon?
a pleasure. Yes.
We're about ready to get off because I just heard in the distance this strange sound. We're out of here.
Okay.
I want to give you a minute uninterrupted just to close off. Say whatever you want.
Okay. I just want to say that the recent cold snap that we've had, we've seen a lot of people that have been falling down, and this is particularly dangerous for the seniors out there. Another problem that we see a lot of in this type of cold weather is that, especially with our seniors, is that they don't drink enough water. They don't necessarily equate cold with thirst, so they don't drink enough, and it's very easy to become dehydrated. So I encourage you to make sure you drink adequate amounts of water in this weather, and don't forget to get up and get some exercise, even if it's in your house. I know a lot of people are reluctant to get out in this kind of extreme cold, especially with any kind of breathing conditions, COPD, or there's a big fear of falling on the ice. But do try to get up and move around a bit. Don't sit around watching us on TV all the time. Do something to stimulate those bones so you don't become sedentary. A lot of people who are too sedentary can develop pneumonia. So drink your water and do get adequate exercise.
And you could say the same for juniors and for children even.
Certainly.
The same thing applies.
Maybe even more so nowadays.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Earl Feling.
Quite welcome.
If they wanted to get in touch with you to ask you anything about the program, give them a number.
My number at my office is 736-6868, and that's in Ripley. It's a 716 area code, and I'm at 73 West Main Street in Ripley, right on Route 20. Feel free to give me a call, and if you have any questions, you just tell my secretary that...
You take walk-ins?
If I have time, I
squeeze them in?
I can squeeze them in.
Yeah.
I very rarely have refused to walk in. I'll usually make room. Usually if someone's in that much pain and that they have to walk in, I can definitely accommodate their needs.
Thank you very much, Dr. Earl Feling, chiropractor extraordinaire. I want to thank certain beautiful people out here who make this program possible. Chuck Kelsey, who started it all, Devin Taylor, Chris Burt, Randy Burt, Chris Ramaker, Jeff Zook, John Hamels, and occasionally Don, well, put him down there. John Hamels is the best. May you all have a great weekend. Don't miss the Super Bowl, 6:30, and make sure you have some bananas along with your pizza. May all that is proud and true and noble abide with you. I'm Reed Powers.